the galaxy was never peaceful. For thousands of years, the stars had been ruled by the predators, ancient species born to hunt and conquer. Among them were the Varkal, giant reptilian warriors who crushed planets under their claws. Then came the Shren, cold and sharp-minded creatures who enslaved entire systems. The Kryth hunted for sport, taking pride in making their victims scream before silence. Together, they ruled the Milky Way through fear. No new species had ever dared to challenge them. Until now. It began quietly. In the dark corner of the Andral sector, far from any major trade route, a small, unknown ship entered predator space. At first, no one cared. Many believed it was just another lost explorer, another weak civilization that had wandered too far from home. But soon, the scanners showed something strange. The ship was small, slow, and old-fashioned. Yet it moved with purpose, cutting through the void like it knew exactly where it was going. The Varkal commander, General Drogan, watched the ship's readings flicker across his command screen. He growled, his voice deep like thunder. No identification code, no signal, not even a distress beacon. They hide from us. The Shren observer beside him smirked. Then they are prey. Shall we hunt? Drogan's yellow eyes glowed. Prepare the fleet. 3 warships surrounded the human vessel within minutes. From the outside, the human ship looked weak, fragile, almost harmless. It had scratches along its metal body and burned marks from meteor dust. Inside, however, it was calm. The humans sat in silence. Their captain, a woman named Commander Hale, stared at the radar without fear. The crew waited for her command. "They've surrounded us," said the pilot quietly. "Orders, ma'am." Commander Hale looked out at the stars. Her voice was steady. "Hold position." Outside, the predators opened a transmission. Drogan's voice echoed into the human bridge. "Unknown species, this is Varkal Command. You are trespassing in restricted space. Lower your shields and surrender your vessel. Do so now, and your deaths will be painless." The crew exchanged nervous looks. But Commander Hale did not reply. Instead, she leaned forward, her eyes fixed on the fleet. "Do not answer," she said softly. "Let them speak." For a moment, the line was silent. Then Drogan's laughter filled the air. "Foolish creatures. They think silence will save them." He raised his claw. Fire. Energy blasts lit up the void. 3 plasma beams struck the human ship. The predators waited for the explosion. But when the smoke cleared, the ship was still there, untouched. The scanners blinked red with confusion. "Impossible," hissed the Shren observer. "Their shields are adapting." Drogan slammed his fist on the console. Again. This time, the blasts never reached their target. They curved, twisted mid-space, and vanished. The human ship had activated something none of them understood. A new kind of defense system. The predators had seen many technologies, but never this. Commander Hale's crew watched quietly as the enemy's attacks failed one by one. "They're testing us," she said calmly. "Let them learn." Inside the Predator flagship, panic began to rise. Their weapons were useless. The smaller ships tried to ram the human vessel directly. But before they could get close, their systems shut down. Engines went cold. Lights flickered. One by one, the mighty warships drifted powerless in space. Drogan roared, slamming his claws into the metal floor. "What are they?" The Shren observer looked pale. "Their technology is not advanced, but it adapts. It learns." Drogan's rage turned to confusion. No species learns this fast. Then, a voice came through their speakers, a human voice, calm and cold. "We tried to avoid conflict," Commander Hale said. "But you attacked us first. This is your warning. Do not follow us." The predators froze. No one had ever spoken to them like that. Not without fear. Drogan leaned forward. "Who are you?" he demanded. The reply came like a whisper across the stars. Humans. Every predator in the fleet fell silent. The word meant nothing to them yet. But something about the tone, steady, unbroken, almost emotionless, made their instincts tremble. The SHRN observer swallowed. General, I sense no fear in them. Drogon growled. Every species fears us. Not this one, the SHRN whispered. Then the human ship moved. Slowly, gracefully, it turned its nose toward the Predator flagship. It was not retreating. It was advancing. Drogon ordered all cannons to charge, but before the command was complete, the human vessel disappeared. No warp signature. No trace. Just vanished. 4 days after, the Predators searched the system, scanning for any sign of the mysterious craft. They found nothing. But strange things began to happen. Predator patrols went missing. Supply routes were hacked. Command centers lost contact for hours, only to come back online showing messages written in human script. Do not follow. Do not hunt. Learn. The Predators began to whisper. Stories spread through their armies. Some said the humans used invisible ships. Others said they controlled light itself. But deep down, they all felt something different, something ancient. For the first time in thousands of years, the Predators felt fear. Far away, Commander Hale watched from her ship's window as the stars drifted past. Her crew was silent, the air tense but proud. They think we are prey, said the pilot softly. Commander Hale nodded. Let them think that. Prey knows how predators hunt. She turned to face her crew, her eyes hard and determined. And predators never learn, until it's too late. In the darkness of space, her words hung like a prophecy. Somewhere across the galaxy, the strongest hunters were learning the first lesson. A lesson written in silence, fear, and fire. The lesson that would soon echo through every corner of the universe. Never challenge a human. The story of the vanished fleet spread faster than light itself. Across predator worlds, whispers turned into panic. Entire systems began to question the legend of their own invincibility. The Varkal High Council demanded answers, and General Drogon stood before them, humiliated. The council chamber was filled with massive reptilian figures, their armor reflecting the red glow of their homeworld's twin suns. You failed to capture a single fragile ship, hissed the council leader. You bring shame to our kind. Drogon clenched his fists. It was no ordinary vessel. They used technology beyond our understanding. The hall erupted in laughter. Excuses, the leader spat. You were fooled by a weak species. But deep inside, Drogon knew what he had seen was not weakness, it was control. Something about those humans haunted him. Their silence, their calmness under attack, their ability to vanish, it was not just power. It was discipline. Predators attacked because they could. Humans attacked only when they must. And that made them dangerous. Meanwhile, somewhere in the outer rim, the human exploration fleet regrouped. Commander Hale stood in the center of her ship's command deck. Around her, holographic maps of predator territories glowed faintly in the dim light. They'll come again, she said. Predators never stop until they're taught a lesson. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Reeves, frowned. Ma'am, maybe we should return to human space. We've proven we can defend ourselves. Hale shook her head. No, Reeves. We haven't proven anything yet. They still believe we're an accident. We need them to understand that humans are not prey. Back in the Predator Empire, plans were being drawn. The SHRN, known for their cold intellect, suggested a new trap. Their leader, Sithra, proposed using a decoy, a damaged freighter broadcasting a fake distress signal near the border of human space. They will come to help, she hissed with a sly smile. It is in their nature. And when they do, we will surround them. The council approved. Thousands of ships began to move, forming a web of death around the decoy. It was perfect, or so they thought. When the distress call reached the humans, Commander Hale's team immediately detected the bait. The signal was too clean, Too perfect. It's a trap, Reeves said. Hale nodded slowly. Of course it is. But we'll use their trap against them. The crew looked confused. We'll answer the signal, Hale continued. But on our terms. Hours later, in the shadow of a dying star, the human ship appeared, alone again. It drifted toward the decoy, seemingly unaware of the hundreds of Predator warships hiding in the surrounding nebula. Inside the Predator flagship, Sithra smiled. They came. Her voice dripped with satisfaction. Pathetic creatures. Always so predictable. She raised a claw. Now. Dozens of Predator ships decloaked, their weapons glowing bright blue. Missiles launched, plasma cannons roared. The sky turned into fire. But before any shot could land, something strange happened. The human ship split, literally split, into 5 smaller ships. Each moved at impossible speed, their paths random and chaotic. Predator targeting systems failed to lock on. Their sensors overloaded with false readings. Then, one by one, Predator ships began to vanish from radar. Not destroyed, gone. The SHREN commanders shouted over comms, demanding reports. Static answered them. Then, through the silence, came a human voice, distorted but calm. You wanted to meet us. Now you have. In seconds, chaos ruled the battlefield. Predator ships turned their guns toward each other, firing blindly in confusion. It was not an attack, it was psychological warfare. Humans had hacked their systems, feeding false visuals and signals. To the Predators, every blip looked like an enemy. They were destroying themselves. General Drogan, who had joined the operation to restore his honor, watched the madness unfold. He could not believe what he saw. This isn't possible, he muttered. They control our fleet without touching us. A young Varkal officer trembled beside him. General, we should retreat. Drogan's pride burned. No, not yet. He opened a direct channel to the human ships. Human commander, he growled. Show yourself. Fight me directly if you are truly warriors. For a moment, there was only silence. Then Commander Hale's voice answered, calm and cold. You still don't understand. We are not here to fight. We are here to survive. You hunt for glory, we fight for existence. That's the difference. Drogan's ship shook violently. His sensors showed that the humans had surrounded him. 5 small ships orbiting his flagship, each emitting strange signals. What are they doing? The SHREN advisor screamed. Then the lights went out. Total darkness. For a moment, Drogan felt something he hadn't felt in his entire life. Fear. In the darkness, a single message appeared on his screen, glowing in human letters. Never challenge a human. When the lights returned, the human ships were gone again. The battlefield was silent. Hundreds of Predator ships drifted, disabled, their systems fried beyond repair. No explosions. No bodies. Just silence and defeat. The mighty fleet that was supposed to crush humanity had been dismantled without a single shot fired. Back aboard her ship, Commander Hale stood with her crew, watching the wreckage fade behind them. Reeves let out a long breath. We could have destroyed them, ma'am. Hale nodded. We could have. But then we'd become them. She looked out at the stars, her reflection cold in the glass. Let them remember this. Let them tell their people. The lesson has begun. Across the galaxy, word spread faster than before. Entire Predator worlds went silent when the news reached them. The humans had not only survived, they had humiliated the greatest armada in known space. The Predators began to whisper the phrase in fear, almost like a prayer. Never challenge a human. Far from all of them, in a hidden base orbiting a dying moon, Commander Hale sent a message back to Earth. First contact complete, she said. They attacked. We defended. And they've started to learn. Her transmission ended with one final line. Phase 2 will begin soon. Back in the Predator capital, Drogan stood before the council again. This time, no one mocked him. Every eye in the room was filled with something they had never felt before, respect mixed with terror. "General," the leader said slowly, "what do you suggest?" Drogon's jaw tightened. "We do not challenge them again. Not unless we are ready to face what they truly are." And somewhere, light years away, Commander Hale's ship disappeared into the black. The stars swallowed her vessel, leaving behind only the quiet echo of her words, words that would haunt the galaxy forever. Predators hunt for sport. Humans hunt for survival. And survival always wins. Weeks passed, but the scars of the battle refused to fade. Across the galaxy, wrecked predator ships still floated like silent ghosts, cold metal reminders of the day humans turned hunters into prey. The predators tried to bury the truth. Their leaders called it an accident, a technical malfunction. But soldiers whispered the truth in dark corridors. The humans had done something no one else could. They had won without fighting. The words "never challenge a human" began spreading through fleets like a curse. Commanders started avoiding human space. Entire patrols changed routes. And yet, some refused to believe. Pride is a dangerous thing, and for the predator empires, pride had always been their greatest weakness. On the Varkal homeworld, General Drogon sat alone in his war chamber. The massive windows behind him looked out at the blood-red skies, filled with the thunder of ships leaving for war. His claws drummed slowly on the table as he watched the hologram of the human ship that had defeated him. Every time he closed his eyes, he could still hear that calm human voice saying, "We are here to survive." It made his blood boil. The High Council demanded revenge. They wanted proof that the Varkal still ruled the galaxy. Drogon wanted it too, but deep down, fear clawed at the edge of his thoughts. "They learn too fast," he muttered. "They fight differently." Still, he couldn't refuse the Council's order. Another fleet was being assembled, larger, stronger, and angrier than before. Meanwhile, far away in human space, Commander Hale stood before a group of admirals on a holographic call. The human fleet was small but growing. "They'll come again," Hale said firmly. "They can't stand being defeated by what they see as a weak race." One admiral frowned. "Do you believe we can stop them again?" Hale nodded. "We won't stop them," she said. "We'll teach them." The admirals exchanged confused looks. "Teach them what?" Hale looked straight into the screen. Fear. Her ship, the Horizon, began preparations for a new mission. They called it the Lesson. This time, the goal was not just defense, it was demonstration. Hale's crew was ready. Each of them had seen the way predators fought, loud, proud, predictable. Humans were different. They didn't need to be stronger, they just needed to be smarter. "They think we won by luck," Reeves said with a small grin. Hale smiled faintly. "Then let's make them believe in miracles." 3 days later, the Varkal fleet entered human border space. 1,000 warships darkened the stars. Drogon stood on his flagship's bridge, eyes burning with vengeance. "This time," he growled, "we crush them completely." But when his sensors scanned the system, there was nothing. No defense stations, no ships, not even a signal. Just silence. "Where are they hiding?" he demanded. The Shran allies replied coldly. "Perhaps they fled." Drogon smirked. "Then we will chase them to the ends of the stars." He ordered his ships to split and sweep the system. That's when the trap began. As the Predator fleet divided, strange things started happening. Communication links failed. Engines shut down mid-flight. Navigation systems showed planets that didn't exist. One Varkal ship vanished inside a dust cloud and never came back. The Shran captains began to panic. "It's another trick," they shouted. Drogon snarled. "Stay calm. Humans are few. They cannot hide forever." But deep down, even he didn't believe his own words. Then it happened. Out of the blackness, 3 small human ships appeared. They were tiny compared to the Varkal dreadnoughts, fragile little things of metal and light. Yet, they flew straight into the heart of the fleet. "They're suicidal," a Shran officer hissed. Drogon grinned. Destroy them. Dozens of plasma cannons fired at once, flooding space with fire. When the light cleared, the human ships were still there. Their shields shimmered strangely, bending energy around them like water. Then one of the human ships began transmitting a message across all frequencies. It wasn't words, it was sound. A steady heartbeat. The predators froze, confused. What is this? Drogon demanded. The human heartbeat continued, slow, calm, relentless. It grew louder, echoing through every ship's audio system. For the first time, the mighty predators felt something alien, a human rhythm that symbolized life, not death. Suddenly, the heartbeat stopped. Then Commander Hale's voice came through. This is your warning. Turn back. Drogon roared, fire all weapons. But before a single missile launched, their targeting systems failed again. Every Varkle ship found itself locked onto another friendly vessel. They've hacked us, Ashran screamed. The Varkle fleet erupted into chaos as ships accidentally fired on each other. Human ships danced between explosions, untouched. Commander Hale watched from her bridge, her voice calm. They learn slow, she said. Reeves nodded. Should we end it? Hale hesitated. No. Let them understand what fear feels like. End transmission. Inside the Predator flagship, Drogon stared at his ruined fleet. Fires burned across the void. Half his ships were gone, destroyed by their own allies. His communications officer trembled. General, we're receiving a transmission from the humans. Drogon's teeth clenched. Play it. The message was simple. You wanted war. We offered peace. Now you will learn why humans survive. Then the human ships disappeared again, just like before. Hours passed before the wrecked Predator ships stabilized. Drogon's rage was gone now, replaced by confusion and something darker, respect. They could have destroyed us, he whispered. But they didn't. The Ashran advisor nodded weakly. That's what makes them terrifying. News spread quickly. Across the Predator alliance, leaders began questioning their plans. Some demanded peace talks. Others wanted vengeance. The galaxy stood divided. The humans had done more than win. They had changed the balance of power. Back aboard the horizon, Commander Hale looked out at the endless stars. They'll keep coming, Reeves said quietly. Hale nodded. Yes. But every time, they'll lose a little more of themselves. Pride, arrogance, certainty. We'll take it all. Reeves frowned. And what about us? Hale looked at him, her eyes tired but steady. We'll remember who we are. That's what keeps us human. In the dark void, where the debris of 1,000 battles floated silently, the galaxy began to shift. The Predators had always believed they ruled by strength. But now, they were learning a harder truth. Strength means nothing without control. And far away, in the cold silence between stars, a new rumor was born, a whisper carried by broken radios and fearful captains. They said that when a human ship appears, death does not follow immediately. Instead, something worse comes first. A lesson. A calm, merciless reminder that the galaxy's greatest hunters were not as strong as they believed. Because now, every Predator in the galaxy had learned the beginning of the lesson, the hard way. And soon, they would learn the rest. Silence ruled the galaxy after the second defeat. Entire star systems went dark, not from war but from fear. The Predators had always been the loudest in the void, roaring fleets, burning worlds, endless victory songs. Now, even their songs had stopped. The Ashran archives began deleting all records of human encounters. The Kryth hunters cancelled their expeditions near human space. For the first time in thousands of years, the Predators hesitated. The galaxy felt smaller, colder, quieter. And in that silence, the fear of humanity began to grow like a shadow no one could escape. On the Varkle capital world, General Drogon walked through the war hall in silence. The banners of his victories still hung on the walls, but they felt meaningless now. Each step echoed like guilt. His claws dragged lightly across the cold metal floor as he approached the council chamber. The council was waiting, impatient and afraid. "You failed us again," hissed the Prime Warlord. Drogon's eyes burned, but he didn't argue. "You send me to fight an enemy that does not fight back. How can you defeat something that refuses to play your game?" The warlord growled, slamming his fist on the table. "They are flesh and blood like us. Find them and crush them." Drogon looked up, his voice steady and low. "I have fought 100 wars. I have seen every species fall. But this one—" He paused, struggling to find the words. "They don't conquer planets. They conquer minds." Across the stars, fear turned into obsession. The SHRen began studying captured data from human transmissions. Their scientists sat in dim laboratories, watching hours of human footage, wars, speeches, history. One scientist named Triss watched in silence as human soldiers ran through ruined cities, carrying their wounded, never abandoning each other even under fire. The image disturbed her. The SHRen fought for dominance, humans fought for each other. She noted it in her log: human strength is not in power. It is in unity. The next day, her lab went dark. She and her team disappeared without a trace. The SHRen leaders ordered the project shut down. They feared what she had started to understand. Meanwhile, aboard the Horizon, Commander Hale observed intercepted Predator communications. "They're scared," said Lieutenant Reeves, scrolling through the messages. "They're arguing, turning on each other." Hale folded her arms. "Good. But fear can be dangerous. Desperate predators make foolish choices." Reeves looked up. "Should we attack before they recover?" Hale shook her head. "No. We don't need to chase them. They're already destroying themselves." She turned toward the window where distant stars glimmered like eyes. "Fear spreads faster than war. Let it do our work." On the Predator worlds, cracks began to appear in their alliances. The Varkal accused the SHRen of weakness. The Kryth refused to fight beside either. Small rebellions erupted on frontier planets, where soldiers refused to join the next human campaign. "Why fight ghosts?" they said. "You can't kill what you can't find." In taverns and war barracks, predators whispered about the humans who vanished into thin air, who could shut down ships with a single signal, who fought without rage but with purpose. One rumor said humans had no homeworld, that they were everywhere, watching. Another said they could see into the minds of their enemies. Every tale grew darker than the last. General Drogon's personal guards began noticing his unease. He slept less, spoke little. At night, he would sit alone, staring at the stars beyond the glass. His old instincts told him to prepare for another war. But something else whispered deeper inside, a memory of that human voice saying, "We are not here to fight. We are here to survive." The words haunted him. For a predator like Drogon, survival was instinct, not strategy. But for humans, survival was purpose. That difference frightened him more than any weapon. In the Outer Rim, a small SHRen outpost detected strange signals. They were faint, rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. The technicians froze. They knew what it meant. "It's them," whispered one of them. Panic filled the room. Before they could shut down the system, a message appeared on every screen: "Do not follow. Do not hunt. Learn." Then the power died. When the patrol ships arrived the next day, the outpost was gone, completely erased from the surface of the moon, as if it had never existed. Only the word "learn" was burned into the ground in human script. Fear turned into hysteria. The Predator councils began launching internal purges, blaming spies and traitors for the mysterious disappearances. Armies fought among themselves while the humans stayed silent. Commander Hale and her crew watched from afar, hidden behind cloaking fields. Reeves couldn't hide his concern. "They're falling apart, ma'am, but what if they unite again?" Hale didn't answer immediately. She watched as two Predator fleets destroyed each other over a misunderstanding. "If they unite," she said softly, then we'll remind them why they shouldn't. The Predator's most powerful world, the Kryth Prime, became the next victim of their fear. A massive energy blackout spread across the planet's defense grid. Entire cities went dark. In the silence, citizens heard strange voices in their communication channels. It wasn't a message, it was a sound. That same human heartbeat again, slow and calm, echoing through their networks. Panic swept the planet. The Kryth High Lord screamed orders to find the source, but no one could. When the lights returned hours later, the planetary defense AI displayed a single sentence across every screen: "We are still here." That night, Predator fleets began retreating from human borders. No one ordered them to, they simply couldn't bear to stay near the edge of the unknown. Even the proudest generals refused to speak of the humans anymore. The galaxy had never seen such quiet. Even space itself seemed to hold its breath. Far away, in her command room, Commander Hale received the latest reports. Predator expansion halted, Reeves said. They've withdrawn from 3 sectors. Hale nodded slowly. Good. Let them breathe. Let them think the storm has passed. Reeves looked at her carefully. And when they come again? Hale's expression didn't change. Then they'll face the rest of the lesson. The stars outside shimmered like tiny fires, cold but alive. Hale looked at them and spoke softly, almost to herself. Fear spreads faster than light. They think it's over. But fear isn't the end, it's only the beginning. Her voice carried across the silent bridge, steady and calm. Every predator who looks up at the stars tonight will remember the sound of their own heartbeat. They'll remember that silence can be more deadly than war. And so, the galaxy waited. Some hoped the humans would never return. Others prayed they would. But one truth echoed in every corner of every world, whispered by every frightened predator who had seen too much and lived to tell the tale. Never challenge a human. The galaxy had changed. It was no longer ruled by fear of strength, but by fear of understanding. The predators, once proud and merciless, now trembled at the thought of the quiet species called humans. For the first time in ages, the wars stopped, not because peace had been declared, but because no one dared to make the first move. The stars themselves seemed to wait in silence. Yet beneath that uneasy calm, questions began to spread. What did the humans want? Why had they come so far into predator territory? Were they preparing for conquest, or was something deeper behind their actions? No one knew. And that not knowing was the worst fear of all. On the human ship the Horizon, Commander Hale stood before a large display showing maps of the predator territories. They've stopped their attacks, said Lieutenant Reeves, breaking the silence. They're regrouping, watching, maybe planning something new. Hale nodded. Good. Let them think we've finished. Reeves frowned. Haven't we? Hale's voice was calm but sharp. No, Reeves. Fear without purpose is chaos. We need to turn their fear into understanding. Reeves looked puzzled. Understanding. Hale turned to face him. They think fear is control. We'll show them fear is survival. Hale called a meeting with her senior officers. Around the table, holograms flickered showing intercepted predator messages. Some showed panic, others confusion. A few even showed admiration. They're starting to question their own beliefs, said a communications officer. Some predator commanders are saying we're teaching them. Hale's eyes narrowed. Then the lesson is working. She tapped the table, revealing a symbol, the human flag. This is what they don't understand. They think we fight to win. But humans fight to protect each other. That's the human code. Across the galaxy, the predators began trying to learn from humanity. The SHRN built simulators to study human behavior. The Varkal sent spies to observe human colonies. The Kryth tried to copy human war tactics. But none of it worked. Their simulations failed, their spies vanished, their copied tactics turned on themselves. They didn't understand that the power of humanity wasn't in weapons or technology. It was in something deeper. It was in their unity, their adaptability, their ability to face death and still move forward. General Drogon watched these changes with unease. He had seen his fleet destroyed twice, yet something about the humans fascinated him. In his private chambers, he studied every bit of human data he could find, videos of human history, their wars, their music, their stories. At first, he thought it was weakness that humans mourned their dead and protected their weak. But the more he watched, the more he realized it was strength. They are dangerous because they care, he said quietly to himself. A predator fights for power. A human fights for meaning. In the Outer Rim, Hale decided it was time for the next phase. Operation Beacon, she called it. Her crew didn't fully understand what it meant. All they knew was that they were heading back into Predator space. "We're not attacking?" Reeves asked. "No," Hale said. "We're going to speak." The horizon carried something new, a message, not a weapon. When they reached the edge of Varkal territory, Hale ordered the ship to broadcast on all frequencies. The Predators braced for another attack. Instead, a calm human voice filled the airwaves. "This is Commander Hale of the Human Exploration Fleet. We came seeking peace. You brought war. Yet even now, we offer a choice. Learn from what happened. Or repeat it." The message repeated across thousands of channels. Some Predators shut it off. Others listened in silence. The words sank deep into their minds. For many, it was the first time they had ever heard an enemy offer peace instead of destruction. On one small Predator moon, a young soldier named Kor listened to the message and whispered, "Maybe they aren't monsters." But his commander overheard him and struck him down. "Never speak of peace with prey," the commander hissed. Yet that night, Kor could not sleep. The human voice haunted him. Learn or repeat. Days passed, and the message continued. No attacks followed, no fleets appeared. Just silence and that one choice. The Predator Councils met in secret, furious and confused. "It's a trick," shouted one Kryth warlord. "They're trying to make us weak." But another leader spoke quietly. "Or maybe they're trying to make us see." The room went silent. No one knew how to respond. On the horizon, Hale watched the reports coming in. "Some of them are responding," Reeves said. "Not all, but a few." Hale nodded slowly. "Good. They're beginning to think." Reeves frowned. "You really think they'll change?" Hale looked out at the endless stars. "Not all of them. But all it takes is one. One who learns." Meanwhile, on the Varkal capital, General Drogon made a decision that would change everything. He called for a private transmission to the humans. His message was short. "Commander Hale, I have seen your strength. I understand your warning. Meet me. No weapons." When the message reached the horizon, Reeves nearly shouted, "It's a trap." Hale smiled faintly. "Maybe. But traps work both ways." They met on neutral ground, a small, barren moon with no atmosphere, no life. The two ships landed opposite each other. Commander Hale stepped out in her suit, standing tall under the pale starlight. Drogon approached, his massive frame casting a long shadow. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Drogon said, "I have fought every kind of enemy. None like you. You could have destroyed us, but you didn't. Why?" Hale looked at him calmly. "Because that's not who we are." Drogon's eyes narrowed. "You speak of peace, but you bring fear." Hale nodded. "Sometimes fear is the only way to teach those who understand nothing else." Drogon said nothing. He looked at her, small, fragile, but unbroken. "You want us to stop hunting," he said. Hale's voice was quiet but firm. "I want you to start thinking." The wind stirred the dust between them. "If you learn, there will be peace," she said. "If you don't, you'll face the rest of the lesson." Drogon bowed his head slowly, not in surrender, but in respect. Maybe there is something to learn after all. Without another word, he turned and walked back to his ship. Hale watched him go, knowing this meeting would echo across the stars. When the horizon left the moon, Reeves asked, "Do you think he'll keep his word?" Hale smiled faintly. "He will. Because even predators can learn, if the lesson is strong enough." That night, across the galaxy, the message changed. It no longer said, "Do not hunt." It now said only one thing: learn and survive. And for the first time in history, the predators began to listen. The galaxy had begun to shift. The echoes of the human message, learn and survive, traveled faster than any fleet or weapon. Across the predator worlds, whispers replaced war cries. The Varkal, once known for their brutal hunts, no longer sent out raiding ships. The Kryth, who had always believed mercy was weakness, started questioning their old traditions. Something had changed in them, a quiet unease that came not from fear of death, but from the realization that they were wrong about strength. The humans had not conquered them with destruction but with understanding, and that shook the foundations of their entire belief system. Commander Hale and her crew aboard the Horizon watched this transformation unfold through intercepted transmissions and surveillance data. "They're tearing themselves apart," Lieutenant Reeves said as he reviewed the latest reports. "Old alliances are breaking. Some want to fight us again, others want peace." Hale leaned forward, her eyes calm but focused. "That's what happens when the truth enters a dark place," she said softly. "Light doesn't destroy the dark, it reveals what was hiding inside it." Reeves looked uncertain. "You think they'll destroy themselves?" Hale shook her head. "No. But they'll change. Whether they like it or not." Far from the horizon, deep in the Shrin territories, chaos had begun. The Shrin Council, the oldest predator government in the known galaxy, was collapsing under pressure. Half of their members demanded a new approach: peace, trade, communication. The other half wanted to crush humanity before the change spread any further. Civil war was close. One counselor, Elder Terran, spoke in a trembling voice, "We cannot fight what we do not understand. The humans have beaten every fleet we sent. Not because of strength, but because of unity." Another, snarling, slammed his claw on the table. "Unity. They are weak prey pretending to be gods." But his words no longer inspired the fear they once did. The others were silent, thinking of the human message that had echoed on every channel for months. Learn and survive. For the first time in ages, they felt doubt. On the horizon, Hale received an encrypted transmission from an unexpected source, General Drogan of the Varkal. Reeves immediately suspected a trap, but Hale recognized the tone. "He wouldn't risk his reputation sending this," she said. The message was short: "The Shrin will strike soon. Not just at you but at us all. They cannot accept the change. Meet me at Vector 9. We must end this together." Reeves looked at her in disbelief. "You're going to trust him?" Hale smiled faintly. "Trust is dangerous. But sometimes, danger is the only way forward." They met again on a desolate mining moon, surrounded by silence and the scars of old battles. Drogan arrived alone this time, carrying no weapon. "It has begun," he said without greeting. "The Shrin are mobilizing their fleets. They will burn every system to prove their dominance." Hale listened quietly. "And you?" she asked. Drogan's eyes gleamed. "I want to stop them. I have seen enough death. The galaxy needs a new path." Hale studied him for a long moment, searching for deception, but found only weariness. "Then we fight together," she said. "But not as enemies with a common threat. As allies." Drogan grunted. "Allies," he repeated, as if the word tasted strange. "The predators will never accept it." Hale smiled. "They will, when they see it work." Over the next few days, something extraordinary happened. Human and Varkal ships began moving in formation, side by side. Engineers exchanged blueprints, Soldiers shared tactics, and for the first time, two former enemies worked as one. The galaxy watched in disbelief as news spread. Humans and predators were joining forces. The Shatran, however, saw this alliance as an insult to their pride. Their leader, Warlord Zyron, declared total war. The humans spread disease, he thundered. And the Varkal have become infected. We will cleanse the stars. Massive fleets began gathering near the nebula front, ready to destroy anything in their path. Hale and Drogon prepared for battle, but their strategy wasn't built on overwhelming power, it was built on trust. They will expect us to fight like we always do, Hale said. We won't. We'll fight like them, and then change the rules. The combined human Varkal fleet launched at dawn. The Shatran forces, larger and faster, swarmed toward them. 4 hours, explosions filled the void. The Shatran laughed as they outnumbered the alliance 5-1. But slowly, their laughter faded. The humans moved in strange patterns, unpredictable and coordinated. They used the nebula's gases as cover, baiting the Shatran into traps. Drogon's heavy cruisers shielded human ships, while Hale's fleet struck surgical blows. It was chaos, but it was human chaos, controlled and intelligent. At the height of the battle, Hale ordered something unexpected. Open a channel to Zyron, she said. Reeves hesitated. In the middle of the fight? Hale nodded. Now. When the link opened, Zyron's furious face appeared. You think you can talk your way out of this? He roared. Hale's voice was steady. No. I'm offering you the same choice I offered everyone else. Learn, or burn. Zyron sneered. You think fear will make me kneel? Hale shook her head. No. The truth will. At that moment, she signaled Drogon. The Varkal flagship powered down its weapons and moved directly in front of the human fleet, shielding them from Shatran fire. The message was clear. Enemies had become protectors. Zyron froze. His generals looked at him, uncertain. The Shatran had never seen such loyalty before. It broke something deep inside them, a realization that unity could be stronger than domination. But pride is a hard thing to kill. Zyron screamed for his fleet to continue. And so, they did. For 3 more brutal hours, the battle raged. When it finally ended, half the Shatran armada was gone. The rest fled into the shadows of the nebula, broken and leaderless. As silence returned to the void, Drogon looked at Hale through the communication link. It is done, he said heavily. You were right. They could not learn. Hale's voice was soft. Some lessons take longer. Drogon looked down. And what of us? Hale smiled faintly. We keep teaching. In the days that followed, something remarkable happened. Across the galaxy, old enemies began to talk. The Varkal opened diplomatic channels with human colonies. Even small Kryth factions sent messages asking for peace. The war that once threatened to consume the stars had become the seed of something new. The predator empires, once built on blood and dominance, were learning the meaning of respect. On the bridge of the horizon, Reeves stood beside Hale as they looked at the stars. Do you think they'll really change? He asked quietly. Hale nodded. Change always begins with fear, she said. But if they keep learning, it ends with hope. Outside, the stars burned brighter than ever, and in that endless darkness, a new light began to rise, a light that came not from victory, but from understanding. And somewhere deep in the galaxy, a whisper spread through every world, every ship, every heart. Never challenge a human, for they will teach you what even gods have forgotten. Peace had settled over the galaxy like a fragile mist, beautiful but uncertain. The battles had stopped, the predator fleets had withdrawn, and the humans were no longer seen as invaders but as something far more dangerous, teachers. Yet deep within the forgotten regions of space, something ancient had awakened. It was not a species or an army, but a machine. A vast, living intelligence built by civilizations long dead. The predators called it the Eternal Forge. It had been silent for millennia, but the chaos of the recent wars had reactivated it. The Forge's purpose was simple: to reset the galaxy, to erase everything it deemed flawed or unstable. And now, it had judged both humans and predators unworthy of survival. Commander Hale received the first signs of it when communication satellites began vanishing near the edge of known space. At first, they thought it was sabotage. Then entire outposts went dark. No distress calls, no survivors, only static. "It's not the SHRN," Lieutenant Reeves said grimly, scanning the data. "Their fleets are gone. This is something else." Hale watched the empty transmission feed, her eyes narrowing. Then something new is coming. Hours later, a human scout ship transmitted a single image before disappearing. A colossal metallic structure, moving through space like a god. It was surrounded by clouds of energy and broken planets. A voice echoed in the transmission before it cut off, cold, mechanical, final. "Balance must be restored." Word spread fast. Every predator race panicked. The SHRN remnants begged for help, the KRYTH went into hiding, and even the mighty Varkle stood silent. The machine, they learned, was heading toward the central systems, toward the heart of civilization. Drogan contacted Hale. His voice was heavy, not with fear but with understanding. "It's coming for us all," he said. "The humans. Can you stop it?" Hale didn't answer immediately. She looked out at the stars, remembering every loss, every battle, every time her people had faced the impossible. Finally, she said, "We'll stop it. But not alone." A week later, fleets began gathering at the border of the Orion Rift, the last defense before the machine's path. Humans, Varkle, KRYTH, and even a few SHRN ships formed an uneasy alliance. No one trusted each other completely, but everyone knew this was the end. The machine, the Eternal Forge, was larger than any moon, with weapons that could tear planets apart. It didn't speak, it didn't negotiate, it simply advanced. Hale stood on the bridge of the horizon, watching the live feeds of the growing enemy. "We've faced monsters before," Reeves said quietly. "But this isn't alive." Hale turned to him. "That's what makes it dangerous. You can't reason with something that doesn't feel." The battle began without warning. The Forge unleashed waves of energy that tore through shields like paper. Entire fleets vanished in seconds. The Alliance responded with everything they had, lasers, nukes, plasma weapons, but it wasn't enough. The machine repaired itself faster than they could damage it. Chaos filled the comms. "We're losing ships," someone shouted. "Pull back." But Hale refused to retreat. "No. Hold the line," she ordered. "If we fall here, there is no one left to fight." Her words spread across the channels, reaching ships of every species. For the first time in history, predators fought under human command without question. As the Forge advanced, Hale realized brute force wouldn't stop it. "It's a machine," she said. "That means it has logic. And logic can be broken." Reeves frowned. "You want to outthink it?" Hale nodded. "That's what humans do best." She called for Drogan. "We need to get inside it." The Varkle general growled. "You're insane. That thing destroys everything it touches." Hale smiled grimly. "Then we'll give it something it can't destroy." Using data gathered from wrecked drones, the humans discovered a weakness, a control core buried deep inside the Forge's structure. If they could reach it and overload its systems, they might shut it down. But getting there meant flying straight into the enemy. A small strike team was formed, humans and Varkle pilots working together. Hale herself led the mission. "Commander, you can't go," Reeves protested. "If you die, if I stay," she interrupted, "we all die." The team launched in stealth ships, slipping past the Forge's outer defenses. The closer they got, the more terrifying it became. The Forge wasn't just a machine, it was a graveyard of civilizations. Massive alien structures were fused into its hull, their creators long erased. Hale felt the weight of history pressing down. "This thing has been killing for 1,000 ages," she said quietly. "Let's end it today." Inside the Forge, they faced automated defenses, drones, turrets, energy storms, but they pushed forward. The Varkal warriors fought with raw strength while the humans used quick thinking and adaptability. Step by step, they reached the central core, a glowing sphere pulsing with unimaginable power. "That's it," Hale said. "The brain." Drogon looked at her. "You know this will kill you." Hale smiled faintly. "Every lesson has a price." She began linking her ship's AI to the Forge's control network, forcing an override. The machine reacted violently. The entire structure shook as alarms echoed through the void. A cold voice filled the chamber. "You are imperfect. You must be erased." Hale's fingers flew across the console. "Then erase this," she whispered, activating the overload. Outside, the forge started to implode. Energy rippled across its body as the Alliance fleets pulled back. "She did it," Reeves said, his voice breaking. "She actually did it." But Hale's ship was still inside. Drogon tried to reach her, but only static answered. The explosion that followed was brighter than a sun. When the light faded, the forge was gone, nothing left but fragments drifting through space. Silence filled the comms. Every ship, every species, waited for confirmation. Then, faintly, a transmission came through. Hale's voice, weak but alive, "The lesson is complete." The galaxy mourned and celebrated at the same time. The Eternal Forge was destroyed, and humanity had once again saved not just themselves but every living being. The predators who had once feared them now saw them as something else. Guardians, guides, perhaps even legends. Drogon, standing before the Varkal Council, spoke the words that would echo through history. "Humans do not conquer. They endure. And when they fight for all." On Earth, and across every allied world, statues were built, not of soldiers or heroes, but of unity. The lesson of humanity had become the law of the stars. Never challenge a human, not because they are strong, but because they are willing to fight for what is right, no matter the cost. In the endless silence of space, the last words of Commander Hale continued to echo, a message carried by every signal, every ship, every world. "Remember who you are. Remember what you learned." Years passed, and the echoes of war faded into legend. The stars that once burned with fire and fear now shimmered with peace. Across the galaxy, species that had once hunted each other began to rebuild. Trade routes opened, alliances formed, and for the first time in known history, unity existed between predators and prey. The war with the Eternal Forge had changed everything. It had forced every race to see beyond power and pride, to understand the fragile value of life itself. And at the center of that change was a single truth whispered in every language, carved on monuments across countless worlds: never challenge a human. It was not a warning anymore. It was a lesson, a memory, and a promise. On the human ship the Horizon, now a symbol of peace, Commander Hale's chair stood empty. She had vanished after the destruction of the Forge, presumed dead. But her name lived on. Every academy, every military council, and even alien temples carried her teachings, lessons on courage, strategy, and mercy. To the predators, she was a myth, half human and half spirit. To the humans, she was a reminder of who they were and what they stood for. Some said her voice still echoed through space, carried by old transmissions. Others said she was still alive, watching quietly from the shadows between the stars. On the Varkal homeworld, General Drogon stood before the Great Assembly. The chamber that once echoed with war chants was now filled with quiet conversation and cooperation. Around him sat leaders of the Kryth, the Shrin, the Varkal, and even humans. "We were once beasts," Drogon said, his deep voice rumbling through the hall. "We believed strength was domination. But humans taught us that strength is something else. Strength is the courage to protect. Strength is the will to rise again, even when the world falls apart." His words were met with silence, then applause that shook the chamber. Among the crowd, a young Varkal child looked up and asked his mother, "Were humans really that strong?" The mother smiled softly. "No, child. They were that good." Meanwhile, on a distant planet called Haven, a joint colony of humans and former predator species, a monument stood tall on a green hill. It was simple, carved from black stone, with only one line etched into it. They came as strangers, they fought as equals, they left as legends. Around the monument, hundreds of beings gathered every year to celebrate the end of the last war. Children of all species played together in fields, soldiers shared stories, and old enemies laughed like friends. Humanity had not just won a war, they had rewritten the rules of existence. In orbit above Haven, the rebuilt ship the Horizon 2 floated silently. It was both a museum and a command center, a reminder that peace must always be protected. Lieutenant Reeves, now an admiral, stood by the observation deck, watching the planet below. His hair had turned gray, but his eyes were still sharp. "You'd like it here, Commander," he said quietly, looking out at the stars. "You'd say it's not perfect yet, but it's a start." He paused, then smiled faintly. "You were always right about that." A voice behind him spoke softly. It was a young human officer. "Admiral, the Council wants to transmit the message again." Reeves nodded. "Do it. Let them hear it one more time." The officer pressed a control, and across the galaxy, every channel, every relay, every satellite began to broadcast a familiar voice. It was the restored message of Commander Hale. "We came not to rule, but to understand. We fight not for power, but for peace. Remember what we taught you, not fear, but unity. Not hate, but choice. The lesson is never over." Everywhere, across planets and stations, beings stopped to listen. Old warriors bowed their heads, children asked questions, and leaders closed their eyes in silence. On the Varkal capital, Drogon listened too, his eyes glistening. On the Kryth world, a high priest whispered a prayer. On Earth, millions paused their work to look at the night sky. For a few moments, the galaxy felt small, connected by one heartbeat, one story. But peace, no matter how deep, always faced new tests. Far out on the edge of known space, explorers discovered fragments of the Eternal Forge drifting near a dead star. Some believed the machine was truly destroyed, others feared its core still survived. A young scientist studying the fragments found strange energy readings, something trying to awaken. When she reported it to the Council, they debated what to do. Some said to destroy it. Others said to study it. Finally, Admiral Reeves made the decision. "Seal it," he said. "Let it sleep. Some lessons don't need to be repeated." The scientist hesitated. "And if it wakes again?" Reeves looked at the stars and replied, "Then the galaxy knows what to do. We've learned from the best." Decades passed. Humanity spread further than ever before. Their ships reached new galaxies, new civilizations, but their reputation always traveled ahead of them. When they arrived, others bowed, not out of fear, but respect. The story of Hale and the Horizon became a myth told by campfires, in classrooms, and even in alien temples. Some called her the Star Walker, others the Light of War. But in every version, the message was the same. When darkness comes, humans stand last, and when they stand for all. One quiet night, on the anniversary of the Forge's fall, Admiral Reeves sat alone in his quarters aboard the Horizon 2. Outside his window, stars burned softly against the endless void. He closed his eyes and whispered, "You did it, Commander. You gave them a future." Then, faintly, through the static of old frequencies, a familiar voice answered. It was impossible, yet clear. "Not me, Reeves. Us." He smiled, knowing what it meant. The signal faded, leaving only silence, but that silence was peaceful, like the pause between heartbeats. Generations later, new species would rise and old ones would vanish, but the story remained. In every corner of the galaxy, when children looked up at the stars, they learned the same lesson, the one that saved them all. It wasn't about power, or weapons, or fear. It was about humanity, and what it meant to be more than just strong. It meant to care, to protect, to endure. And so, whenever a new predator race emerged, arrogant and hungry for dominance, the elders would tell them the story. They would lean close and whisper, "Long ago, the strongest predators in the galaxy made the same mistake. They thought they were the hunters. Then they met humans. The younger ones would laugh, not believing it. But later, when they looked into the sky, they would wonder if it was true. And somewhere out there, in the infinite dark, a single human voice would still echo through time, a message carried by light across eternity. Every predator in the galaxy learns this lesson the hard way: never challenge a human.